There's a tension in the air when destiny is near. The atmosphere feels different, heavier, louder, almost electric. It's the sound of a soul standing between breaking and breakthrough. The sound of someone who's been fighting battles in silence, standing on the edge of giving up, whispering, "God, I can't take much more." But tonight, I came to declare something over your life. Don't quit. You're closer than you think. Pressure is not your enemy, it's your indicator. It's the signal that heaven is moving, that something is shifting beneath the surface of your struggle. When pressure rises, it doesn't come to destroy you, it comes to define you. It refines the fragments of who you used to be and prepares you for who you are about to become. The battle always gets hardest right before the breakthrough, because the enemy can sense what you're too wary to see, that the finish line is closer than it appears. Pressure is the sound of progress. Every diamond begins as coal. Every warrior is forged in fire. Every promise goes through a process. You can't pray for elevation and run from pressure at the same time. The two walk hand in hand. Pressure is not punishment, it's preparation. It's God tightening the grip on your life so that when He releases you, you'll shoot farther than you've ever gone before. When the heat turns up, it's not to burn you, it's to mold you. It's the friction that turns potential into power. You can't be anointed and avoid adversity. You can't be chosen and still be comfortable. The crown always comes with a cross. Before glory, there's always grinding. Before triumph, there's always testing. And the test is not meant to expose your weakness. It's meant to reveal your strength. Pressure pushes out what doesn't belong. It breaks the shell of your old self so the new you can emerge. That's why some seasons feel like chaos, because you're being cracked open for greatness. Look at every person God ever used mightily, and you'll see the same pattern. Before David held the crown, he faced the lion, the bear, and the giant. Before Joseph wore the robe of royalty, he wore the chains of rejection. Before Jesus carried the glory of resurrection, he carried the weight of the cross. Pressure precedes power. Every story of transformation carries a moment when quitting would have been easier, but pushing through changed everything. You don't get oil without crushing olives, and you don't get wine without pressing grapes. The pressing produces the promise. The enemy studies timing. He doesn't attack when you're strong, he attacks when you're close. He senses the movement of destiny like a predator senses fear. When you start getting closer to your purpose, he intensifies the pressure. He whispers lies, stirs confusion, and amplifies your doubt because he knows if he can't stop your faith, he can't stop your future. He knows if you keep pressing through the pain, something unstoppable is about to be birthed. That's why warfare increases when breakthrough is near. The storm rages loudest right before the rain stops. Pressure reveals character. It shows what you truly believe when everything comfortable is stripped away. It exposes what's built on faith and what's built on feelings. Anybody can praise when life is smooth, but can you still worship when everything hurts? Can you still lift your hands when the weight feels unbearable? Can you still say, "God, I trust you," when the outcome makes no sense? Real faith is not proven in comfort, it's proven in chaos. When you worship through pain, you declare to every demon in hell that your praise is not for sale. God allows pressure not to break you but to bless you. Sometimes he'll let the walls close in, not because he's left you, but because he's building something inside you that requires resistance. Just as a seed must push through soil to reach sunlight, You must push through struggle to reach purpose. The deeper the pressure, the stronger the roots. The greater the resistance, the higher the growth. The pain you're feeling is the evidence that purpose is alive. You are not buried, you are being planted. The problem is that pressure doesn't feel holy while you're in it. It feels heavy. It feels lonely. It feels unfair. You cry, you question, you wonder why the God who promised victory is allowing the battle to get worse. But here's the truth. The promise doesn't exempt you from pressure. It demands it. God cannot elevate you on weak foundations. He will not give you glory you aren't strong enough to carry. The pressure is His way of making sure what He builds in you will last when success arrives. Sometimes you pray for God to open a door, and He gives you a storm instead. You ask for strength, and He gives you struggle. You ask for patience, and He lets time stretch you. Because He's not just answering your prayer, He's shaping your capacity to handle what you prayed for. The pressure is working for you even when you don't understand it. Romans says, all things work together for good. That includes the tears, the sleepless nights, the confusion, and the closed doors. God wastes nothing. The same pressure that made you cry will become the very thing that makes you shine. When pressure comes, your flesh wants to flee, but your spirit knows this is where growth happens. When the fire intensifies, it's burning away impurities you didn't know were still inside you. That's why some relationships fall away in the process. They can't survive the level of heat required for your next dimension. God is not subtracting from you, He's sanctifying you. He's refining your circle, your focus, your mindset. He's teaching you to depend on Him completely. Because what's coming next requires faith. That won't fold under pressure. You might be in a season where everything feels like it's closing in. The bills are piling up, the doors are shutting, and your strength feels spent. You've done all you know how to do, and still, the breakthrough hasn't come. Hear me, don't misinterpret pressure as punishment. It's proof that you're close. The devil wouldn't bother you if you weren't carrying something valuable. He wouldn't attack you if you weren't next in line for release. You're too close to quit. You're too anointed to give up. You're too chosen to back down now. There's something powerful about a believer who refuses to break under pressure. When you stand firm, you remind hell that your faith is not fragile. You show heaven that you trust God even when life doesn't make sense. You declare that your confidence is not in circumstances, but in the one who controls them. And when you hold your peace in the middle of pressure, God begins to fight for you. He steps into the fire, not to take you out, but to prove that even flames can't consume what He has anointed. So if you're in a season of stretching, don't curse it. Thank God for it. If you're under pressure, it's because you're about to produce something. Every contraction in the spirit world is a sign that delivery is near. The pain you feel is the sound of something divine breaking through. You are standing on the threshold of transformation. And though it feels like you're surrounded, you're actually protected. Though it feels like you're breaking, you're being built. Though it feels like you're losing, you're being launched. Pressure is proof that you're valuable. Pressure is proof that you're chosen. Pressure is proof that you're close. The battle intensifies near breakthrough because the enemy fears what's coming next. Don't give in. Don't let the weight make you quit. You are being prepared for a victory so big that it requires this level of pressure to sustain it. Hold steady. Keep praying. Keep praising. Keep pressing. Because on the other side of this wait is the win you've been waiting for. The fire will not consume you. It will refine you. The pain will not break you. It will birth you. The pressure is not a sign of defeat. It's the evidence that destiny is near. You are closer than you think. Faith is not built in moments of comfort. It's revealed in moments of contradiction. It's easy to believe when everything looks like it's working. It's simple to trust when doors are opening, prayers are being answered, and life feels aligned. But the real test of faith comes when nothing makes sense, when the evidence contradicts the promise, when what you see screams louder than what you believe. That's where faith must rise above feelings. Because feelings fluctuate, but faith must remain firm. Feelings are temporary, but faith is eternal. You cannot trust God based on how you feel, because feelings are fragile. They shift with the wind of circumstance. One day you feel strong, the next day you feel like giving up. One moment you're filled with hope, the next you're overwhelmed with doubt. But faith is not a feeling, it's a decision. It's a declaration that says, even when I don't see it, I still believe it. Faith looks at the chaos and says, God is still in control. Faith stands in the dark and declares, light is coming. Faith speaks what feelings deny. The danger of living by feelings is that they will always pull you toward what's familiar, not what's faithful. Feelings chase comfort. Faith chases purpose. Feelings tell you to quit. Faith tells you to keep walking. Feelings whisper, you're not enough, while faith shouts, God is. If you only move when you feel motivated, you'll never see the miracle. Because faith doesn't wait for feelings to align, it moves first. Faith says, I'll walk on water even if my legs are shaking. It says, I'll praise even when I don't see the promise. That's why God often takes us through seasons that stretch us beyond our emotions. He allows moments where our feelings run dry so that faith can take the lead. Because as long as you depend on emotion, you'll never develop endurance. And endurance is what turns faith from a theory into a lifestyle. You learn to worship even when you're weary. You learn to trust even when you're trembling. You learn to speak life even when everything around you looks lifeless. Faith doesn't deny reality. It just refuses to be ruled by it. When Abraham looked at his body, he saw the evidence of age. When he looked at Sarah, he saw barrenness. But when he looked at God, he saw promise. The facts didn't change, but his focus did. That's the power of faith. It doesn't need proof to move forward. It says, I don't know how, but I know who. Faith finds strength in uncertainty. It turns confusion into conviction. It makes you believe that what God said is greater than what life shows. Every great person of faith had moments when feelings tried to overtake them. Elijah stood on the mountain and called down fire, but moments later, fear drove him into hiding. David sang songs of victory one day and cried tears of despair the next. Even Jesus in the garden said, Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. But then he followed it with faith, nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done. That's faith speaking louder than feelings. That's surrender in motion. It's when your emotions are loud, but your spirit says, I trust you anyway. When you let faith speak louder, you reclaim authority over your life. You silence the storm inside before you deal with the one outside. Because the real battle is not around you. It's within you. It's between what you feel and what you know to be true. The devil doesn't just attack your situation, he attacks your perspective. He magnifies your pain amplifies your fear, and hopes you'll let your feelings drive your choices. But faith steps in and says, I'm not moved by what I see. I'm moved by what God said. Faith gives you language when your heart is breaking. It tells you to speak victory in the middle of defeat. It tells you to thank God for what hasn't happened yet. When you let faith talk, you confuse the enemy because he can't understand why you're still standing after everything that should have broken you. He doesn't understand how you can still worship when the answer hasn't come. That's because faith has a different vocabulary. It doesn't just describe what is, it declares what will be. Feelings will tell you it's over. Faith will tell you it's not finished. Feelings will tell you God forgot. Faith will remind you he's still faithful. Feelings will say, you can't. Faith will echo, with God, all things are possible. And in that tension, your maturity is measured. Because spiritual growth isn't about shouting louder, it's about trusting deeper. It's about having peace while you wait, strength while you struggle, and confidence while you can't comprehend. Sometimes faith doesn't change the situation. It changes you in it. It strengthens your spirit, matures your mind, and anchors your soul. It builds an unshakable trust that says, even if he doesn't do it my way, I still know he's good. That's the kind of faith that moves mountains, not because the mountain disappears instantly, but because your perspective shifts. You start seeing the mountain as a setup for God's glory. Your feelings might say, I'm stuck, but faith says, I'm being shaped. Your feelings might say, this delay is painful, but faith says, this delay is preparation. Your feelings might say, it's too late, but faith says God's timing is perfect. You see, when faith leads, you start interpreting your pain differently. You realize it's not punishment, it's positioning. Every closed door becomes direction. Every delay becomes development. Every disappointment becomes divine redirection. That's why the Bible says we walk by faith, not by sight. Because sight will limit you to what is visible, but faith will lift you into what is possible. Sight shows you obstacles, faith shows you opportunity. Sight says, there's no way. Faith says, God will make one. Sight focuses on the walls, faith focuses on the one who can tear them down. You can't walk in both at the same time. You either let feelings guide your steps or faith lead your path. Faith is not loud, but it's powerful. It's that quiet voice in the back of your mind that says, keep going. It's the whisper that says, God hasn't failed you yet. It's the calm in your spirit that says, I don't know how, but I know it will work out. That's why you must feed your faith more than your feelings. You feed your feelings with fear, worry, and doubt. But you feed your faith with the word, with worship, with gratitude, with prayer. Because what you feed will grow, and what you starve will die. When faith leads, you start walking differently. You stop reacting to storms and start resting in the one who controls them. You stop complaining about what's not working and start thanking God for what is. You stop letting your emotions write your story and start letting God finish his. Because when faith takes the mic, fear loses its voice. The noise of anxiety fades in the presence of trust. Maybe your feelings are screaming right now. Maybe everything in you wants to run, quit, or hide. But listen, this is the moment to let faith rise. This is the time to declare, God, I don't understand it, but I trust you through it. You may not feel strong, but faith will carry you. You may not feel ready, but faith will prepare you. You may not feel like you can keep going, But faith will give you wings, where feelings only give you weight. The difference between those who finish and those who faint is not that they never felt weak. It's that they didn't let feelings make the final call. They let faith have the last word. And when faith speaks, mountains move, chains break, and miracles manifest. So don't let what you feel dictate what you believe. Let what you believe transform how you feel. Because at the end of the day, feelings fade, but faith endures. Feelings waver, but faith wins. Feelings react, but faith remains. And if you can silence your emotions long enough to hear your faith speak, you'll realize the storm around you is not stronger than the God within you. So hold on, stand firm, and let faith speak louder than your feelings. Because your miracle is waiting on the other side of your belief. Delay is one of the most misunderstood tools God uses to shape destiny. When you pray and nothing happens, when you plan and it falls apart, when you wait and the door still won't open, it's easy to assume that God has forgotten you. But what if the delay isn't a denial? What if it's divine design? What if God is working behind the curtain, arranging what you can't yet comprehend? Sometimes heaven says, "Not yet," because what you're asking for is smaller than what God is preparing. The pause is not punishment, it's preparation for the promise. We live in a world obsessed with speed. Fast success, instant answers, quick miracles. We want everything now. But God doesn't operate in hurry. He operates in timing. He's not governed by clocks or calendars. He moves by purpose. While you're counting minutes, He's shaping moments. While you're worrying about what's late, He's aligning what's lasting. Delay is His way of protecting you from premature blessings. Because a blessing given too soon can become a burden you're not ready to carry. Every delay has a reason. Sometimes God is not changing your situation, He's changing you. There are lessons in waiting that can't be learned in movement. There's strength developed in stillness that can't be built in speed. You learn patience in the pause. You learn trust when you can't trace Him. You learn surrender when you realize your timeline is too small for His plan. The delay becomes the classroom where faith graduates from theory to reality. Think about Joseph. He dreamed of greatness as a boy, but before the dream came true, he was betrayed, enslaved, and imprisoned. It would have been easy to assume God had forgotten him. Yet, behind every disappointment, heaven was quietly positioning him for destiny. If Joseph had gone straight from dream to throne, he would have lacked the wisdom and humility the process gave him. The pit didn't cancel the promise. It confirmed it. Every delay was a setup for divine timing. Sometimes the reason you're still waiting is because the stage isn't set yet. God is aligning people, opportunities, and circumstances in a way you can't see. You're focused on the door, but He's still building the room behind it. You're praying for the job, and He's preparing the workplace. You're asking for marriage, and He's maturing both hearts. You're praying for the blessing, and He's fortifying your character so that when you get it, you'll have the strength to sustain it. Delay is God's way of making sure you don't arrive before your anointing is ready. The delay also exposes motives. Some people only seek God for what He gives, not for who He is. Waiting tests your heart. Will you still worship when there's no reward? Will you still serve when no one notices? Will you still believe when heaven is silent? Faith is easy when prayers are answered instantly. But real faith is proven in the waiting. It's when you can say, God, even if you don't do it right now, I still trust that you're good. That kind of faith scares the enemy because it can't be manipulated by circumstances. Delay also protects destiny. There are doors you thought you wanted, but if God had opened them when you asked, they would have destroyed you. There are people you thought you needed, but if they had stayed, they would have distracted you. There are platforms you thought you were ready for, but if you had reached them too soon, the weight of visibility would have crushed your identity. God is not denying you, He's defending you. Every closed door is a shield. Every not yet is a safeguard. Every unanswered prayer is divine editing for your protection. When you look back, you'll realize God's delays were the greatest demonstrations of His love. Because He loved you enough not to let your impatience ruin your destiny. He loved you enough to let the season stretch you. He loved you enough to teach you how to depend on Him completely. You might be crying in the waiting room, but heaven is smiling because it knows what's coming next. The promise is still alive. It's just maturing underground. The seed of your purpose doesn't grow overnight. A tree doesn't bloom the moment it's planted. The roots must go deep before the fruit appears. The deeper the delay, the stronger the foundation. That's why some blessings take longer. They're meant to last longer. Quick success fades, but slow growth endures. God is not only preparing the blessing for you, He's preparing you for the blessing. The process is not punishment. It's proof that you're chosen for something greater. Sometimes you think you're being delayed, but you're actually being developed. God is building your endurance, refining your character, and enlarging your capacity. You can't pour a gallon of destiny into a cup-sized soul. The delay stretches you so you can hold more. You may feel like nothing's happening, but something is shifting inside. You're learning to pray differently, to believe deeper, to stand stronger. The very thing that feels like a setback is actually setting you up for greater stability when the blessing arrives. Don't mistake silence for absence. Just because God isn't speaking doesn't mean He's not working. A teacher is often silent during the test, not because they've left the room, but because they want to see what the student has learned. God may seem quiet, but He's watching how you handle the in-between. Do you complain or continue to praise? Do you panic or persist in prayer? What you do in delay determines what you'll receive in destiny. Delay is also where intimacy is built. When you can't see His hand, you learn to trust His heart. You start to recognize His voice more clearly because it's all you have left. Waiting draws you closer. It makes you seek Him for who He is, not just what He can do. It matures your relationship from convenience to covenant. When you finally reach the promise, you'll value the presence even more because you found Him in the waiting. You may feel like the delay is endless, but God's timing is always on time. The Bible says, at the appointed time, it shall speak and not lie. There's an appointed time for every promise. You can't rush divine scheduling. God has already marked the moment of your release, your promotion, your breakthrough. And when it's time, no devil, no delay, no detour can stop it. When God says now, everything that was held up will be released at once. The wait will make sense in a single moment. Until then, keep walking by faith, not frustration. Keep showing up even when nothing seems to move. Keep sowing in tears because joy is coming with the harvest. Don't give up in the hallway of waiting when the door of destiny is right ahead. Remember, delay is not denial, it's direction. It's God saying, I'm not finished arranging this yet. So breathe, stay steady. Stop comparing your timeline to someone else's. There now doesn't mean you're never. Your time is coming, and it will come suddenly. The same God who showed up for Abraham in old age, who delivered Joseph from prison to palace in one day, who resurrected Jesus after 3 days. He's the same God orchestrating your timeline. He hasn't forgotten you. He's not ignoring you. He's preparing you. Every second of this delay is working for your good. Every prayer that seems unanswered is echoing in eternity. Every tear that falls is watering the soil of your next season. When God finally says, "It's time," you'll look back and understand why He made you wait. You'll realize that the delay wasn't wasted. It was divine. It wasn't denial. It was design. And you'll thank Him not just for what He did, but for how perfectly He timed it. Struggle is not the absence of God's hand. It's often the evidence of His involvement. The very thing you call pain may be the proof that something powerful is being born inside you. Every purpose carries a process, and every process carries pressure. When you find yourself wrestling with uncertainty, fighting through disappointment, and holding on by faith alone, that's not a sign of failure. It's a sign that something divine is taking shape. Nothing great ever enters this world without struggle. Before the butterfly can fly, it must break the cocoon. Before a seed becomes a tree, it must split open underground. Before greatness is revealed, it must survive being buried. We live in a world that celebrates success, but hides the struggle that produces it. People see the glory, but don't know the story. They see the shine, but not the scars. They applaud the victory, but overlook the valley that birthed it. But the truth is, struggle is where strength is forged. It's where you discover who you are and what you carry. Struggle doesn't come to destroy you. It comes to introduce you to the version of yourself that only pain can produce. The struggle is evidence that something great is being born. Think of a mother in labor. The contractions grow stronger, the pain intensifies, and it seems unbearable. Yet that pain isn't punishment, it's proof that new life is coming forth. The same is true in the spirit. The greater your calling, the greater the contractions. The closer you are to your promise, the stronger the pressure becomes. Pain is not your enemy, it's your midwife. It's helping push purpose into existence. You can't give birth to destiny without discomfort. You can't carry greatness without feeling the stretch. The struggle refines you. It exposes what's shallow and strengthens what's real. It teaches you to rely on God in ways comfort never could. When life is easy, prayer becomes casual. But when struggle hits, prayer becomes oxygen. The storm drives you to your knees, and in that place of surrender, something in you shifts. You stop performing for approval and start depending on grace. You stop asking, "Why me?" and start saying, "Ooze me." Struggle matures your spirit. It transforms your cry of pain into a song of purpose. Many of the people God used powerfully in Scripture were shaped in struggle. Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness before leading Israel out of bondage. David ran for his life before sitting on the throne. Joseph endured betrayal and imprisonment before stepping into authority. Even Jesus faced the cross before resurrection. Each one had to wrestle before they could reign. Struggle didn't disqualify them, it developed them. It carved character, built endurance, and taught them how to trust when they couldn't see. There's something sacred about the struggle. It strips away false strength and reveals dependence on God. When everything else fails, you discover that He's enough. You learn that peace isn't the absence of storms. It's the presence of God in the middle of one. You realize that victory doesn't mean you never fall. It means you get back up every time you do. You start to see struggle not as opposition, but as opportunity. It's the ground where faith grows deep roots. Struggle also brings clarity. When life gets hard, distractions disappear. What doesn't matter falls away, and you see what truly does. Pain has a way of purifying priorities. It teaches you who's really for you, who's really with you, and what's really worth fighting for. It removes superficial people and reveals solid ones. It ends counterfeit connections so divine ones can begin. Sometimes what feels like loss is really liberation. Struggle sets you free from what can't go where you're going. But make no mistake, struggle hurts. It makes you question. It makes you want to quit. Yet even in those moments, something holy is happening beneath the pain. When you can't trace God's hand, you can still trust His heart. He's weaving every thread of struggle into something beautiful. The tears you cry are watering the soil for your next season. The nights you endure in silence are building the foundation for your future strength. You're not being broken, you're being built. Sometimes the struggle is not around you. It's within you. It's the war between faith and fear, purpose and procrastination, obedience and comfort. Every step toward destiny requires a death of who you used to be. The struggle is the sound of your old self dying and your new self awakening. That's why it feels so heavy, because transformation always comes with tension. But if you keep pressing, the pain that once hurt you will become the very thing that helps you. Even Jesus struggled. In Gethsemane, He wept until His sweat became like blood. He said, "Father, if it's possible, let this cup pass from me." That was His human side wrestling with divine purpose. But then He said, "Nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done." That's the moment struggle became surrender. That's when the cross became the bridge to glory. If the Son of God had to go through struggle to bring forth salvation, why do we think we can bring forth destiny without pressure? The beauty of struggle is that it produces things comfort never can: wisdom, empathy, strength, and authority. You start to speak from scars, not theory. You can comfort others because you've been comforted. You can pray with power because you've been through pain. Struggle gives your words weight and your faith credibility. People can feel authenticity in your voice when you've survived what they're still fighting. Sometimes you won't realize what the struggle produced until you're standing on the other side of it. You'll look back and see that the tears built resilience, the waiting built wisdom, and the pain built purpose. You'll understand that the fire that once threatened to consume you actually refined you. You'll realize that if you hadn't gone through what you went through, you wouldn't be who you are. The struggle was never meant to destroy you. It was designed to define you. When you embrace the struggle, it loses its power to control you. You stop resenting it and start learning from it. You begin to see it as divine training ground. You realize that every battle prepared you for a blessing. Every fight strengthened your focus, and every fall deepened your faith. You stop asking for an easier path and start asking for stronger feet. You start seeing that every mountain was molding your muscles for the climb. So if you're in a struggle right now, don't misinterpret it. Don't call what's meant to birth you something that's breaking you. You're not being crushed. You're being created. The struggle is the sound of your miracle in motion. The shaking is a sign that something is shifting. The pressure is the proof that purpose is pushing through. What you call chaos, heaven calls construction. What you call pain, God calls progress. You may be tired. You may feel like quitting, but don't, because struggle is not forever. It's for formation. When the baby is born, the pain stops. When the breakthrough arrives, the pressure makes sense. When the promise manifests, you'll look back and say, it was all worth it. And the same God who saw you through this struggle will strengthen you for the next level of glory. So hold on through the stretch. Stay steady through the storm. Keep praying through the pressure. Because struggle is not the end. It's the evidence that something great is being born. The pain is temporary, but the purpose it produces will outlast it all. When this season ends, you'll rise not just healed, but whole. Not just stronger, but wiser. Not just surviving, but standing in victory. The struggle is the seed of your strength. And when you finally see what's been growing, you'll understand why it had to hurt before it could happen. Every step you take in pain is a step toward purpose. It doesn't always feel that way while you're walking through it. When you're bleeding emotionally, when your heart is heavy, when your dreams seem delayed and your prayers seem unanswered, the pain can feel pointless. But God wastes nothing. Not a tear, not a disappointment, not a heartbreak. Every step you take through pain is doing something in you, forming something that comfort never could. You may not see it now, but pain is shaping your purpose, molding your character, and teaching you to walk by faith and not by sight. Sometimes pain is not punishment, it's preparation. It's God's way of building endurance in your soul. You can't carry great purpose with weak shoulders. You can't handle the weight of destiny without the strength of discipline. Pain trains you for what you prayed for. You asked God to use you, and He said, then I have to prepare you. You asked Him for greater influence, and He said, then I have to strengthen your foundation. You asked Him to elevate you, and He said, then I have to stretch you. Pain is often the divine stretching process that precedes promotion. When you're in pain, it's easy to question God. You start to wonder why He's allowing it, why He hasn't stopped it, why He hasn't rescued you yet. But the truth is, God doesn't remove pain until it has served its purpose. There are lessons you can only learn in the valley. There are dimensions of faith that can only grow in darkness. There are levels of obedience that only emerge under pressure. You don't learn to trust God when everything makes sense. You learn to trust Him when nothing does. Every painful step builds a deeper dependence on His voice, a stronger resilience in your spirit, and a clearer understanding of His timing. Pain produces perspective. It changes the way you see life, people, and purpose. Before pain, you might take blessings for granted, relationships lightly and grace casually. But after pain, you see differently. You become grateful for what you used to overlook. You begin to appreciate the little victories, the small moments of peace, the quiet mercies that show up in the middle of chaos. Pain humbles you. It strips away pride and makes you realize that you're not self-made, you're God-carried. Every step that hurt reminded you that His grace is still enough to keep you standing. Every time you walked through pain and didn't quit, you gained something eternal. You gained spiritual stamina. You gained a testimony. You gained an unshakable awareness that if God brought you through that, He can bring you through anything. Pain becomes your teacher, your mentor, your molding ground. It matures you in ways easy seasons never could. Comfort might make you happy, but pain makes you holy. Comfort might soothe you, but pain strengthens you. There's something sacred about walking with God while it hurts. You start to see how he meets you in ways no one else can. He speaks through the tears, comforts through the silence, and steadies your trembling hands when you're too weak to keep going. Sometimes the presence of pain is the clearest evidence of the presence of purpose. Because if you were walking nowhere, the enemy wouldn't bother you. The attack only intensifies when you're close to destiny. Pain is often the enemy's last effort to make you give up before you get there. Every step in pain is building your capacity. You're being stretched but not destroyed. You're being broken but not abandoned. You're being refined, not rejected. The fire you feel is not meant to consume you. It's meant to cleanse you. You're being prepared for something you can't handle yet. But when it comes, you'll be ready, because the pain taught you how to stand. Pain produces patience, and patience produces purpose. Sometimes God lets us walk through painful steps because He's more concerned with our development than our comfort. He's not trying to make us comfortable. He's trying to make us capable. You can't lead people out of something you've never survived. You can't speak healing into others if you've never been broken. You can't minister to people's pain if you've never walked through your own. Pain gives you credibility. It gives you compassion. It gives your voice weight. It gives your words power. Every scar tells a story. Every wound that healed speaks of grace. The enemy meant to use pain to paralyze you, but God used it to position you. The enemy thought pain would silence you, but God turned it into a sermon. The very thing that tried to take you out is the same thing God is using to lift you up. Pain doesn't disqualify you, it qualifies you. It gives you the authority to say, I've been there, but I made it through. It's proof that grace works. When you walk through pain with faith, you discover purpose even in what hurt you. That betrayal didn't just break your heart, it revealed who's truly for you. That loss didn't just create grief, it taught you how to value time. That delay didn't just frustrate you, it prepared you for divine timing. That closed door didn't just stop you, it redirected you towards something greater. Every painful step is connected to a divine purpose you may not see yet. Even Jesus walked through painful steps. Every step toward Calvary was agony, yet every one of those steps was purpose in motion. With every strike of the whip, every insult shouted, every nail hammered, purpose was unfolding. Pain was not defeating him, it was fulfilling prophecy. When he cried, "It is finished," he turned pain into redemption. The same God who brought meaning out of the cross can bring meaning out of your suffering. Your pain is not wasted. It's working for glory. Pain teaches endurance. Endurance teaches faith. Faith reveals destiny. You can't skip steps in that process. Every step that hurt is a step that helped. Every tear watered the seed of purpose. Every sleepless night shaped your spiritual muscle. You may have walked through fire, but you're walking stronger now. You may have lost some things, but you gained wisdom that can't be taken from you. When you understand that every painful step carries purpose, you start walking differently. You stop running from struggle and start asking, God, what are you showing me in this? You stop blaming the pain and start blessing the process. You begin to realize that pain is not permanent, it's progressive. It's moving you, maturing you, and molding you into someone who can handle what's coming next. So don't despise the steps that hurt. Don't curse the path that crushed you. Because those steps are the bridge between where you were and where God has taken you. You're not walking in circles. You're walking towards something. Every painful step is a prophetic step toward destiny. You're climbing, even when it feels like you're crawling. You're growing, even when it feels like you're breaking. The pain you feel today is the strength you'll stand on tomorrow. When you finally reach the place God is leading you to, you'll look back and see that the steps that hurt the most were the ones that carried you closest to Him. You'll see that pain didn't derail you. It directed you. It didn't destroy you. It developed you. You'll understand that purpose was hidden in every ache. Destiny was waiting behind every delay, and God's plan was being perfected in every painful step. So keep walking. Don't stop just because it hurts. Don't quit because it's hard. You're not dying, you're developing. You're not failing, you're forming. Every step in pain is a step in purpose. And when it's all said and done, you'll realize that the pain was not your enemy. It was your escort to destiny. The very thing that broke you will be the thing that built you. The same steps that made you cry will one day make you grateful, because every painful step was leading you closer to healing, to purpose, to victory, and to the fulfillment of everything God promised you. Persistence is the bridge between your promise and your breakthrough. It's what keeps you walking when your strength is gone, when your prayers feel unanswered, and when your hope begins to fade. Persistence is not flashy, it's quiet, consistent, and often unseen. It's the decision to keep moving when everything in you screams to stop. It's the faith that refuses to quit, even when there's no evidence of change. The truth is, most people give up not because God failed them, but because they stopped too soon. They were standing on the edge of breakthrough and didn't realize it. The wall between you and your promise is often one more prayer, one more push, one more step of faith. That's why persistence unlocks the promise. Because those who refuse to quit will always outlast what tries to stop them. God doesn't always move fast. He moves faithfully. There's a difference. He's not in a hurry because He's working on something eternal. You might be asking for quick deliverance, but He's focused on deep development. Persistence is what builds the strength to handle what you're asking for. If God gave it to you too soon, you might not have the maturity to keep it. The waiting, the pressing, the endurance, it's not a punishment, it's preparation. Every time you persist, you prove that you can be trusted with the promise. You prove that you're not just after a blessing, you're after growth. When you look through Scripture, every person who carried a promise had to persist. Noah had to keep building the ark while everyone mocked him. Abraham had to wait decades for his son. Joseph had to stay faithful in prison before he saw the palace. David had to keep believing while hiding in caves. And Jesus, He had to persist through betrayal, rejection, and pain until He fulfilled the mission on the cross. Persistence has always been the language of purpose. It's not about speed, it's about stamina. It's not about how fast you move. It's about how long you can stand. There's something powerful about persistence because it breaks the back of resistance. The enemy doesn't fear a believer who starts strong. He fears one who refuses to stop. He knows he can't defeat you unless he can discourage you. That's why the pressure intensifies when you're close to breakthrough. The devil doesn't attack empty ground, he attacks purpose. If you weren't close to something, he wouldn't be fighting you this hard. The attack is a sign of proximity. The warfare increases when destiny is near. That's when persistence matters most. When you feel like quitting, that's when you must push harder. Persistence is not about ignoring pain. It's about refusing to let pain be the final voice. It's standing in tears but still declaring, God is good. It's walking with questions but still trusting His plan. It's worshiping while waiting, believing while bleeding, and holding on when your heart is breaking. Persistence doesn't mean you're strong all the time. It means you show up even when you're weak. It's the determination to keep doing the right thing, even when you don't see the results yet. Some blessings don't come because of talent or timing. They come because of tenacity. You might not have all the answers. You might not have all the resources, but if you've got persistence, you've got enough. Because persistence keeps you in position for God to move. Many people pray for miracles, but miracles often meet those who refuse to move from their faith position. The persistent widow in Luke 18 kept coming to the unjust judge until she got justice. She didn't stop because of delay. She didn't let silence make her silent. Her persistence pulled the promise out of a place of resistance. That's what persistence does. It makes heaven respond. Sometimes God hides behind silence to test your persistence. He wants to see if you'll still seek Him when He doesn't answer. He wants to know if you'll still show up when you don't feel Him. That's how faith matures. Anybody can praise when they see progress, but true faith praises when there's no sign at all. Persistence says, even if I don't see it, I'll still believe it. Even if I don't feel it, I'll still trust Him. That's the kind of faith that makes the enemy nervous and moves the heart of God. Persistence is also about alignment. It keeps you moving in rhythm with God's timing. Sometimes you think the delay means denial, but God is just synchronizing your step with His plan. You're not late. You're being aligned. You might not see anything changing, but something's shifting in the unseen. Heaven is rearranging things in your favor. While you're persisting in prayer, God is positioning provision. While you're walking in faith, He's working behind the curtain. Persistence keeps you moving long enough for what He promised to catch up to you. There's a power that comes from persistence that comfort can't produce. It teaches you endurance. It builds spiritual muscle. It burns away doubt and forges discipline. You stop living by emotion and start walking by conviction. You learn to trust process more than pace. You stop needing evidence because you have experience. Experience that God has never failed you yet. That's what persistence produces, unshakable faith. The kind that says, even if I have to crawl, I'm still coming. Sometimes the hardest part of persistence is when nothing changes. You pray and the situation stays the same. You sow and see no harvest. You work and get no recognition. But that's when persistence has to speak louder than disappointment. Because faith is not proven by results. It's proven by endurance. The seed doesn't sprout the moment it's planted. It has to stay buried before it blossoms. You can't rush roots. The waiting season is when persistence protects the promise. There will be moments when your body is tired, your heart is weary, and your hope feels fragile. But persistence says, I will not stop until God says it's done. It's not about perfection. It's about continuation. It's not about how fast you recover. It's about how long you can remain faithful. God honors persistence. He rewards those who diligently seek Him, not those who occasionally visit Him. The difference between those who see fulfillment and those who don't is not always favor. It's faithfulness. Persistence transforms ordinary people into extraordinary vessels. It turns pain into power, storms into stepping stones, and tests into testimonies. It gives you the courage to face closed doors without losing confidence, to stand in the middle of chaos without losing composure. Persistence is the language of the overcomer. It whispers, "Not yet, but soon." It reminds you that progress may be invisible, but it's inevitable when you don't quit. Every time you persist, you're declaring war on doubt. You're saying to the enemy, "You can hit me, but I won't stop. You can delay me, but you won't defeat me. You can discourage me, but you won't destroy me." Persistence turns your pain into prophecy. It turns your waiting into witness. It declares that you trust God even when the road gets rough. That's when heaven starts to move, when earth refuses to quit. So keep pushing, keep praying, keep believing. Don't let tiredness turn into surrender. You're closer than you think. The night is darkest before the dawn, and your breakthrough might be one push away. The walls of Jericho didn't fall on the first march. They fell on the seventh. The widow's oil didn't stop flowing until the last jar was filled. The fishermen didn't catch anything until they threw the net one more time. It's always one more time that unlocks the miracle. Persistence is not glamorous, but it's glorious. It's not loud, but it's lasting. It doesn't make headlines, but it makes history. It's the difference between almost and accomplished, between waiting and winning, between surviving and succeeding. So don't stop now. You've come too far to turn back. The pain you've endured, the faith you've built, the prayers you've prayed, they're all converging toward your breakthrough. Keep going, keep pressing, keep standing, because persistence unlocks the promise. Not talent, not luck, not timing, persistence. And when you finally step into what you've been believing for, you'll look back and realize every tear was training, every delay was direction, and every struggle was shaping you for the strength you now carry. You'll thank God you didn't quit when it hurt. You'll praise Him that you didn't stop when it was silent. Because in the end, persistence wasn't just what got you there. It's what made you who you are. Life will always test your endurance. It will shake your faith, stretch your heart, and confront your spirit with moments that make you want to quit. But this entire journey, every storm, every setback, every delay, has been God's way of building something in you that can't be broken. You've learned that pressure is proof of purpose, that faith speaks louder than fear, that delay doesn't mean denial, that struggle births greatness, that pain leads to purpose, and that persistence unlocks the promise. You've discovered that the very things that tried to break you were actually blessings in disguise. Tools in the hands of a divine craftsman, shaping you for destiny. So now, as you stand at this point in your journey, don't you dare give up. You're closer than you think. You may not feel strong, but strength is not always loud. Sometimes it's the whisper that says, "I'll try again tomorrow." You may not see results yet, but faith doesn't walk by sight. The same God who started this work in you will finish it. The same God who kept you through nights of tears will reveal the sunrise of triumph. The same God who allowed the storm will use it to carry you into your next season of glory. Don't quit when you're tired. Rest if you must, but don't stop. Don't let disappointment become your destination. You didn't come this far to turn back now. Every wound is evidence that you survived what was meant to destroy you. Every scar is proof that grace still works. The story isn't over. You're still in the middle of the chapter God is writing, and the ending will make sense when the curtain of pain is pulled back to reveal purpose. Keep walking, Keep trusting. Keep believing. Because the road that looks rough is leading somewhere beautiful. You may feel buried, but you're actually planted. And when the season changes, you'll rise with fruit that could only come from the soil of struggle. You'll look back and realize that every tear, every battle, every lonely night was a stepping stone towards something greater than you imagined. So lift your head, square your shoulders, and take another step. The breakthrough is nearer than it appears. The door is already unlocking. The promise is already in motion. And when it happens, when you finally stand in the light of what you prayed for, you'll understand that quitting was never an option, because God was always closer than you thought.